everyone, we are in front of my bar today because I'm going to show you how I DIY'd the faux terrazzo top. I actually need to replace it because it's been recently destroyed. We put a Trader Joe's candle on here and one of those tin ones, and it just got so hot and it completely ruined this. So I'm going to be replacing it with a faux travertine top. And I thought I would take you guys with me so I could show you actually how I did this, because everyone who comes over to my house and uses my bar absolutely swears that it's a real top before they actually get in there and start touching it and realize it's not. So let me show you how I create a realistic stone bar top. So this is actually a faux terrazzo peel and stick wallpaper or contact paper from Amazon. And it actually works as a countertop because I put about 5 layers of water-based polyurethane on here. So you can use a cleaner on it and treat it as a normal countertop. I originally did this because I really wanted to hide this textured gray wood veneer. So this time around, I'm going to use a brand new stone textured contact paper. This is the one that I found at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. And surprisingly, it seems like the one roll is going to be all I need to fit this entire bar. When I saw this, I just thought it looked so chic because it actually looks like it's travertine, right? Which I feel like is a big upgrade from terrazzo. So I think the candle burn on this bar was just a happy accident. Let's get started with cleaning the top of the bar from all that past sticky residue that came with the old contact paper. So I'm going to sand this down because this is a little bit rough. And if I put new contact paper on top, it's just gonna see through to the other side and it's probably gonna end up ripping it again. So I'm just gonna do a light sand on here just so that when I go over it, it's pretty smooth. I'm not obviously gonna probably get this perfectly because it's pretty bad, but we're gonna do the best that we can. So I'm going to show you how I put this on here to avoid any kind of air bubbles or weird misshapen things, and then we'll move on to the next step. So my first piece of advice is try to avoid touching your fingers to the sticky back. The contact paper seems to have even less adhesive than peel and stick wallpaper, and it's just going to be more difficult to fully stick down the paper if you've touched it a bunch, so just keep that in mind. So I'm just getting started on the back side here where you're not going to see it. So if I make any mistakes, I can easily change them and not have to worry about it. But once you get an even and level stick on one side, you can then slowly start to stick it to the top of the countertop. You want to go very slowly because that's going to eliminate any kind of air bubbles. You can use one of those flat scrapers that you would use for peel and stick wallpaper, or I just use like a little bar-sized cutting board. And if you start in the middle and go left and then start in the middle and go right, you're gonna eliminate the possibility of any kind of bubbling, and you're gonna make sure that you're keeping your paper center. It's not too difficult, it just takes a lot of patience. And to be totally transparent, doing any kind of wallpapering is always 10 times easier if you have another pair of hands. So try to enlist somebody's help if you can. Otherwise, this is very doable on your own. It'll just take a little bit longer to get it right. So as you're making your way down the countertop, it's a lot easier to keep it straight if you keep a firm grip on it and keep pulling it down slowly. If you have that second pair of hands, they can slowly be rubbing it in left and right to eliminate air bubbles, or you can just do it very slowly yourself. But I think holding it firmly and making it taut is really the trick here. So as you get to the sides of the countertop, again, just try to pull it tightly. It's hard to not touch the sticky side with your fingers, but this is the best way to eliminate any kind of air bubbles. However, you can always just pull over the contact paper, and even if you have bubbles, you could take a very sharp X-Acto knife and just lightly poke and make the most microscopic hole, and that'll release the air and it'll actually get covered up with all the polyurethane so you won't even be able to tell. So if you want to just avoid it and have a bunch of bubbles, that's doable too. When it comes to cutting the corners, you want to find the path of least resistance, because the less overlay you have, then the less obvious it is that this is actually a piece of paper on here and not one solid piece of stone. And so if you cut the corners at an angle where you can hide one of the pieces of the corner underneath the other, then it'll look very seamless. And the more that you press the paper in, the more that it seems to blend. And once you've got all those layers of polyurethane on there, this is something that will not be as noticeable as you think. Alrighty, so we are at the point where I have the contact paper all over the bar. bar and I just need to do some finishing touches before I put on the polyurethane, but I am absolutely loving this. It's so beautiful and it's very neutral, but it's still warm. And I think it's a lot better than the terrazzo I had because it was very busy and it had a lot of cool tones in it. So I feel like this is just way more up my alley, and I literally cannot believe this is only $1.25. So I could actually go get another roll of this and do a second layer just to like have a thicker coverage, let it be more smooth, especially since this does have the texture underneath. But I'm really not too worried about it because after you put a few coats of polyurethane on here, it's gonna blend and smooth things out so much more than you think that you won't even have to really worry about it. It's gonna feel like a real countertop. I'm really excited to see the end result. So let's get to polyurethaning. Alrighty, I've let the bar top dry. This is about 4 coats of polyurethane, and you'll see this is where I originally had the damage. It's truly not too bad. I am not worried about it at all. And if this was actually stone, there would be imperfections on here. If you ask me, this looks pretty great for a $1.25 roll of contact paper. This also does look like a travertine top, and it's got a little bit of a sheen to it, obviously, because of the polyurethane, but I am using like a semi-matte one, so it's not too bad. It's very slippery, it's very slick, and I could easily spray this with like Mrs. Meyer's and clean it if I needed to, and that's the goal. You want to be able to reuse this surface, and I don't see any lines or any imperfections. I don't see anything of my brush strokes. The bare polyurethane that I'm using is self-leveling, so when you put it on, it actually does have a lot of grooves from the brush or the sponge that you're using. However, it does automatically smooth over time. I really highly suggest this polyurethane. It is really great, but you can only get it at Home Depot. So I'm just gonna do one more coat, but after that, I'd say we're done here. The trick is to get a thick amount on here, and you're really just going to brush it through like so. And then I just wipe the excess. I put a fairly thick amount on here, and thick is relative considering this is a water-based polyurethane. Water-based ones don't really yellow. Here I'm just now spreading out any of the excess that I have and making sure that if it dripped around the corners, that I'm just grabbing the extra drips. But yeah, you don't need any more than this. And you just kind of make sure that it's all on here very evenly and just keep doing that all throughout the bar top. Alrighty, so I'm gonna let that dry for an hour and then we'll put it back and style it, and I will show you what it looks like. I am super happy with the way it looks. I feel like it's realistic, especially when I'm not paying much attention to it. It seems like a really nice piece of furniture in the background. So I'm really stoked that I paid literally $1.25 for this contact paper, and I already had my polyurethane, and I only had to do about 5 coats. So if you wanted to go buy polyurethane yourself, you could get by with a really small container if you're doing something of a similar size. But let me know down in the comments if this is something that you would do on your countertops, or if this is something you have done, and if you have additional tips and tricks. I'd love to hear it, and I'd love for you to subscribe and like the video. It really helps out the channel if you like what I'm doing here. And if you'd like to be notified of my next video next week, hit that notification bell. Otherwise, I'll see you guys later. Bye.